But we're really happy to be here today, hosted by Artfare. My name is Carolina Wheat. This is Liz Nielsen. And we're here to do a walkthrough of Zsófia Keresztes, or Keresztes Zsófia's solo exhibition here at Elijah Wheat Showroom. So first we'll start with, I know some of you have already seen this, but we're going to do a nice quick recap of some of the works that are here in the gallery that were actually made by Zsófia during her 2-month residency.
Here in New York.
Here in New York.
Yeah, so do you want to tour around, or do you want me to start asking the questions?
Let's start asking questions, and we'll do a little tour.
Okay, so what are these pieces made out of? What are we looking at here?
Well, I was mentioning that the work is created in the space. The studio became quite full of a lot of materials for making that I was very wary of their toxicity while the artist was making. So she was in here, the space was closed, the door was open, she had like a hazmat suit on, a face mask, all sorts of gloves. I mean, truly almost premonitory looking, as if so many folks today walking down the streets. The glass tiles are imported from Italy via a gardening shop in Arizona, and she had a lot of different tiles that were all kind of they were all square, and so she was cutting all the tiles, a lot of pastels, a lot of really fantastic unique colors, and this is all epoxied with this great green glue that she found, although she said it's not as good as the toxic stuff, with and then over foams, so insulation foam and other types of spray expanding foam to kind of fill out and create these really wonderful curvilinear points within the glass mosaic tiles, patterns. And as she was cutting all the tiles in her hands, and they're quite heavy, folks ask, you know, how did you kind of get that on the wall? We worked with a professional art handler, Joel Fennell, thank you. And she put these French cleats behind, and so the work itself is about 65 to 70 pounds. And then this corner piece was a little bit peculiar too, to get fashioned onto the wall. It's quite heavy. Yet you can see some of the similar elements in relationship to her representational, kind of, you know, illustrative sculptures, teardrops, and webs. And then maybe let's go to the drawing.
This is one of the first times that Zsófia's actually shown a drawing.
Yeah, and she had created the drawing in here as the first thing that she drew or was ideating in order to bring to life some of her three-dimensional sculptures. Again, some symbolism of the web, this infrastructure of water falling on the web, tears more, the teardrops, and then these fantastic glossy nails stabbing spiders on the landscape. We could talk a little bit more about her ideas in relationship to this symbolism after we also address the first piece that I showed you, which is the central sculpture. It's called The Failure. The failure comes from this idea of a female form that also is like a spider. She also talks about the fakir in Sufism and Hindu mysticism, the idea that people can, like the fakir, only focuses on their religious devoutedness or their devout religious behavior by laying on a bed of nails. The only thing, or fasting, or almost self harming in this way to be closer to God, or closer to, in a polytheistic way, gods. And Zsófia talked a lot about this fakir, and the fakir as this female form was bending inside and almost coming apart from these teardrops, which were meant to look like the fakir's needles that they sleep on, almost eviscerating the female form in this kind of elegantly violent way. Hence the title, Glossy Inviolability, in her concept to create work that as a figure can become quite broken, or is not inviolable. And this glossy term not only relates to the tiles, mosaic glass tiles that she's using, but also relates to this superficiality or facade of inviolability.
What does inviolability mean, actually? Because it's a new, it was a new word for me. Maybe it is for others as well.
Yeah, almost an indestructible presence. Sometimes mystics and religious authorities or devout humans are subject to this inviolability. Bodhisattvas and saints and all sorts of different holy persons are almost closer to the heavens in relationship to them being indestructible. So it's a special word that's reserved for holy persons. Yet I think in this day and age, she was very interested in how online and our digital presence, a lot of her work is about the digital presence. And so this idea of the tiles and this pixelation of the actual sculptures are often referenced within her online world.
And also, yeah, tell us about like the web, like what the significance of the web is, as well as the teardrops, like what those things are meaning in reference to her.
Well, the web, I asked her, we did an artist talk for not a gallery open a couple weeks ago, and when she was referring to the web, folks were kind of saying, oh, well, that references perfectly the World Wide Web. Okay, yeah, we get it. And she was like, actually, it's way more than that. It's a structure that is meant to be catching prey. It's meant to be there as a defense mechanism or a place for sustenance. And therefore, the web actually is catching these teardrops, where the teardrops refer to this online empathy or non-empathy. Like the teardrops, as we know them, they fall from our eyes, yet we're prone to maybe online sending an emoji with a teardrop that will or will not show someone whose pet has just passed or grandparent has just passed, or someone that is reaching out to someone with these emojis and these teardrops. Is that of value? Is that empathy? And so I think she also talked about the tears being this toxic space, sometimes feeling the self-pity of others and wanting teardrops. I implore you to read the press release, because it does attend to some of these ideas in a more cohesive way than my rambling about, her artist talk. Yet the idea of empathy online, I think, is the gist of how to kind of interpret the glossy or the fakeness of tears in the web.
Yeah, like a lot of the tears look like they're getting caught in the web. But from here, they're coming from above. And then, in these ones up in the corner and also over here, the tears are caught in the web but the web has no spider here. So the spider has abandoned its web.
Aww.
And then these teardrops here also to me look like super sexual. So I feel like they are carrying different types of weight, like where the tears are coming from in all the different locations. Did she mention anything about how the spider is not on that web, but yet the spiders are being crushed and killed by the nails in the drawing?
She has not mentioned anything about that. I asked a lot of questions of her to write the press release, and we worked back and forth with each other to be able to best use English as not her first language. She is Hungarian, and therefore we were, although her understanding of how the English language works within arts, speak and otherwise, we were happy to, this is our interview stance. We were happy to help interpret some of these terms and some of these things with her. And there was a little bit of a language just bouncing off back and forth throughout the ideation of the show. But this is her first drawing that she's ever presented in a gallery setting. She has another gallery in Austria named Gianni Manhattan, and a lot of the works that she's created in Europe specifically are much larger. They're really mammoth.
I was also curious about the sculptures being able to be outdoors. Like they're inside here, but I was curious if they can go outside.
They can.
Which is also like a nice thing because they could see that in the yard or a sculpture garden.
Yeah.
And what about the titles? We talked about the title of the show. Did you mention the titles of these pieces so far?
I did not, but I mentioned earlier, I think the piece in the center is called The Failure. The two pieces that are web-based with the tears are called Easy Targets, Heavy Bites, 1 and 2. And then the drawing is Distress of the Huntress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they have kind of intense names that deal with empathy or deal with being caught in something, target.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think there has been a lot of interest about the sculpture. This is Zsófia's first time showing a solo show in the United States and in New York. And it was a real pleasure to work with her. We just, in a short, maybe how we met Zsófia.
Yeah.
Liz did a residency in Budapest.
And I did a residency in Budapest, and they have a gallery weekend tour that also includes studio visits with artists. So we first encountered Zsófia's work by doing a studio visit with her with several other people during this gallery tour, where we toured different galleries in Budapest, met all kinds of curators and critics and art lovers, art collectors, and then artists that were local in Budapest. So we met her then, and then
it was our honeymoon.
The following year we went back, and we had another studio visit with her. So at that point we thought, we love Zsófia's work. How are we going to get her to New York? And then we ended up collaborating with another artist residency program called Bubu Arts. Bubu standing for Buffalo, New York, Budapest, Bubu. And Kati Metzler is the person who runs Bubu Arts, and she ended up saying, well, I'd love to bring Zsófia over in collaboration with Elijah Wheat Showroom. So instead of being in Buffalo, it took place in Brooklyn. So I guess this one would be like Bubu Arts, just this one. But usually there's all the Bubu Art programs. So Zsófia actually lived with us for 2 months, and she worked in the gallery space, building the sculptures on site as installations in here. So they've lived here since they were created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not easy for a small gallery like us, Artist Front's gallery, to, you know, when we find an artist, the Hungarian sculpture artist who's just absolutely prolific and so profoundly craft oriented as well as idea based, you know, these things that we really love to put together here at the showroom. To imagine shipping these sculptures over to Brooklyn from Budapest was laughable for us. There was no way. So that's when we kind of came up with this plan, like, well, what if she could build the sculptures here? And that's when a residency program stepped in with us. And then it was like, well, where will we put her? Like, studio space in New York is not easy to come by. And, you know, even residences or sublets and leases aren't really easy to come by all the time. And so we had an extra bedroom in our house, and I was able to curate a show in Chicago for the month of January and February. So we were able to discontinue programming in Brooklyn, and then have a 5-person show, a feminist show up at Western Exhibitions in Chicago. And while Zsófia was working here, it was a nice break for us, but it's also, you know, we don't have a townhome to put them up in while they're sitting here working. So sharing our space twofold, it's commitment.
Yeah, so this is the first artist in residency program, but Elijah Wheat Showroom has done a lot of different types of curatorial projects. Nomadic, basically before having a space, we were doing curatorial projects or shows in other locations, and that has still continued with Lena even doing the most recent one that she did in Chicago. But we've also had other curators come into the gallery to do shows here as well.
Absolutely.
Curate shows inside the space, but maybe like just for some of you do know a lot about our program. I recognize a couple of names on the screen, but not everybody. So for those of you who don't know a lot about the program, what kind of shows we do and like what kind of mission we have, would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I think anyone that looks through our artists and exhibitions that we've had now going on 5 years, April 20th, 2020 will be 5 years. We've been in this space doing programs, you know, shows maybe 4 to 6 weeks. And with those shows every 4 to 6 weeks, we have a curatorial slant. Our mission is to show work that is conceptually, social, political. It's looking at our community and the tertiary elements that are around us every day, whether it's in the news or whether it's in our personal lives, thinking and assessing our place right now in the present. I'm really interested in that contemporaneous slant, as well as highly crafted work. We really enjoy working with artists that have a strong practice, as well as a commitment and work ethic. And we're happy to do that. Our landlord's just saying hi.
He's got a mask on.
He's got a mask on too. And so, yeah, so it was like we kind of combined all those things together, and we're queer-owned, feminist, you know, owned and operated. We're certainly looking for underrepresented candidates, where artists that may not have the ability to get their voices heard as easily as some. And
we've given a lot of artists their first solo show.
This is real.
So for instance, Zsófia is a more established artist, but this was her first solo show in New York. And also maybe in the States as well as a solo show. But a lot of the artists that we work with are, more emerging often. And this will be the first time that they've done, you know, a consignment form, or packed their own artwork, or hung their own artwork, or knew what a center line was on the wall, how to hang it. Worked back and forth with Carolina writing the press release, like how to contextualize their work inside of a larger art dialogue. And Bushwick alone, where we are in Brooklyn is Bushwick, and Bushwick has over 50 galleries just in Bushwick. So there's a thriving art community that's here. and we have a place within that. So just working with artists that are local, but also often national and then sometimes international. So this has also been a really exciting experience for us because it's broadened the type of artists and work that we show in general.
Yeah. And as we are an artist-run space, we're really engaged in understanding what it's like to feel as an artist in a gallery relationship, but also we work hard to be a gallery in the best interest of the artist. So when Liz says this is the first time some artists have gotten their consignment agreements, or we don't really represent artists here at the showroom. We offer opportunities for artists, but we like to watch them fly. It's like 3-month consignments or whatnot. But with Zsófia, we're a little bit longer, since this was a great effort on her part to come out here, and on our part to host, and yet we are getting more and more recognition for showing art that does have that curatorial slant, but also we just always want to prove the opportunity for voices that aren't always heard, and instigating conversation. And with that, I kind of want to ask, are there any questions?
I think we have to unmute you if you do, or no, or you can ask via chat.
I think you can unmute yourself or ask during chat. Tell us your Instagram. Instagram, I guess I could do an IG live too. I felt it was going to be a little bit much to be doing it all, but I suppose that's what we could have done in it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Instagram is Elijah Wheat Showroom, Elijah_Wheat_Showroom on Instagram.
Zsófia's back in Budapest now. She made it back home before all of the flights stopped happening. So we're here with her work, but that's why she's not here with us today.
Yeah, it was her first time in New York, and through the pandemic and the pandemonium and all of the things, her flight got canceled, and we were able to get her on a flight a couple days before just everything just kind of shut down and stopped. It was really a scary time for her, I think, too, to be here, and really I'm glad she's home. Let's see, will you guys be doing other international residency shows again?
Who knows?
I have 2 artists I'm thinking of right now I would love to work with. But of course, we've always been looking at least fair, so we would like to go there and do like the least fair sometime soon. We have done a fair. We did solo booths for 20 artists in October 2018 for a 4-day fair that was kind of like an FU fair during Freeze 2018. So we have done shows there. But Liz, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience in Budapest too, I see.
Yeah, so I also have done a couple artist residencies. One which was happening currently right now, but it stopped because of the COVID. So that was in Charlotte, North Carolina. But then the other one that I did was in Budapest, and I had an excellent time in Budapest. It was really life-changing for me. So I have connections that led me there, and I just did it. I went and lived there, and I made work. And doing a residency program is always something that creates you to be more inventive with your practice, because you're out of your comfort zone. You don't have your normal things that you're used to. A lot of times you don't have the supplies you want or need, but you have other supplies. So it does inevitably shift your vision, your practice, and help you grow as an artist. So I had met Zsófia at that point, but we didn't really hang out. I didn't really get to know her more until she came here at this point. But I'm sure many people have done residency programs or are interested in them. Hosting one is a whole other game, because you're also trying to help people get engaged with your own community. What it is that you do, the artists the galleries you go to. So there's another type of thing being on the opposite side of it. But both of us having been artists and being involved in curatorial projects like Elijah Wheat Showroom. And in the past, we had a gallery in Chicago called the Swimming Pool Project Space that we ran for 3 years there. So we've kind of been on both sides of being the artist, curating shows, and helping out other artists in our community, which is
one of my
really
favorite
exciting.
stories. Just really quickly, I know I want Liz to tell it, because when she was talking about getting out of your comfort zone, you're an artist, you do these residencies. I think that Zsófia was kind of feeling that a lot too. When Liz was in Budapest, she ended up having to almost reinvent the way she works with her analog experimental photography. And that was a kind of a real endeavor for her to learn a new process based on limited materials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know that Zsófia had that experience a bit here as well. And even having her presenting a drawing, which is something that she hadn't really done, part of that was because some of the materials hadn't quite arrived in time, and she thought, I need to start making things. I'm going to start doing drawings right now. Mm-hmm. She may say something different than that, but in my mind, I thought that's what I'd be doing. I'd be doing something. Like right now, I don't have access to my photographic equipment, so instead I'm drawing. And I think you just take it as it goes. I'm sure everyone here is doing different things than they normally would be doing because of our situation and being in the home and taking on projects. And
we have another, yes, thank you. We have another question from Lauren Hirschfield. Hello, Sister Gallery. She asks if she works with her business partner, Kat Riles, and she's wondering if we could speak about what it's been like running a gallery in Bushwick for as long as you have, and then how it's changed the neighborhood. Ooh, or has the neighborhood changed around us? The fact is, when we first got this space, it was a dream come true. We had no idea that something like this would exist, and we would have such an incredible, supportive landlord that keeps our rent to a very respectable amount for us to be able to continue programming here, but it's still not easy. The neighborhood is always had, it's had Norber's, but now it's Birdie's, and then Happy Fun Hideaways across the street. So it's a little bit of a bar culture. And then it's got some older renovated apartments, but it's also got some new build over the last couple of years. I'll never forget when we were showing Natalie Baxter, we had the building just started moving in. It's about maybe 300 bedroom apartment complex. And they've been building it for years. And I remember a couple people were coming in off the street that it was kind of unusual that wasn't part of the community that I noticed prior. And they were like, oh, this is my neighborhood gallery. I want that. And I was like, great. Natalie Baxter, as you know, makes these warm guns. And that was her first solo show in New York. And she had about 50 plus pieces of inventory all hanging from the ceiling and all on the walls. And it was a lot of attention for us. It was really great. And yet to be able to be an arms dealer as a neighborhood gallery was also really cool. But that was a difference. Otherwise, as we've been sitting here and we've got the window right there, our landlord walks by, some of our neighbors have walked by, and they've been waving at us. Today, some of my neighbors, a lot of different kinds of folks. One of my favorites is queer Puerto Rican dude. He's like 50, in his mid 50s. His partner's got HIV, and he comes in all the time, and he's just like talking about his partner and his problems today. And but he's cool.
A lot of people have come in, just because they live nearby. So we get foot traffic just because of that, which is really nice. And this area, it has, Linda's talking about how there's a lot of bars over here, but there's also like a clothing store next door to us, like an upside.
We love our neighbors.
like a yoga studio, a lot of other artists, and there was a cafe that was thriving across the street for the whole time we were here until about 6 months ago, and it shut down, but unfortunately. But we've had a lot of people that live in this vicinity coming in to the shows, and then they sign the mailing list, and then we invite them to the shows, and so then they show up and drink a glass of wine with us when we have an opening.
And
so,
truly, all, folks from all walks of life. As I was saying, one of my favorite ladies named Mary, she's so cool. She's got always really different colored hair. She's probably in her 80s. She walks her dog, and I think she might have a little dementia because she doesn't remember me every time, but she still wants to come in and talk, and her dogs are welcome. Then there's John, who's got the bouquet of dogs, who always says, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, people have come in and actually said, "Thank you. I've lived here for 50 years, and it's so nice to see a space that's supporting artists."
And we have a Bushwick art gallery community, so we're friends with other gallerists too.
Mm-hmm.
So going to each other's shows like that. And plus, we're very close to the J train, which is the JMZ train, but that's really just like a hop, skip, and a jump over to the Lower East Side. So a lot of times people are going gallery hopping in the Lower East Side, and they'll say, "Oh, I just hopped over to this," because they knew they could get to that also in the same night. So you have to plan your gallery hopping with proximity.
Yeah.
But
that was a great question, and I could probably talk about that for a really long time. Is there any other questions?
Wait, one came in.
Absolutely, we can show the exhibition a little more for those that came in.
Oh yeah. We can do another walkthrough.
Yeah.
Lena told me to move slowly because otherwise it could pixelate. So let's see. Okay, so first of all, this is like the central piece in the middle of the gallery.
It's called The Failure.
It's called The Failure. It's quite sexual, I think, but
Yes, it's based off the fakir.
It's based off the fakir,
which is a spiritual holy person in Sufism. Actually, it's kind of a cross with a little bit of Hinduism, a little Sufism, and the Muslim mysticism. But it's also, as she mentioned, that it's a female that's folded in upon herself and is eviscerated by these tears that are like toxic tears that are meant to be like the bed of nails that the fakir lays on.
And she also mentioned it's in a waiting position.
It's in a waiting position.
And then this one is called Easy Targets, Heavy, Lena, you have to help me with the title.
Easy Targets, Heavy Bites.
Easy Targets, Heavy Bites. And it's the web with the tears in there. And these are mosaics. Mosaic sculptures, I guess I should say. There's tiles on them. And then this one, I thought this was really inspirational as an artist to be placing a sculpture in the corner, at the top corner of the room. That one's also called Easy Targets, Heavy Bites, number 2. Mm-hmm. And then the last piece, there's 4 pieces in the show. The last piece is this drawing called Distress of the Hunter. And it's colored pencil. You get closer to it, and then the nails are stabbing spiders. And then there's the teardrops in the web. And then there's the front of the gallery.
And an altar for Elijah.
Yeah, we have an altar. I might have moved too quickly. And then here's the vinyl for the title of the show. We don't have a light on that right this second. Okay.
We're very happy to have the opportunity to do this, to kind of be up in the first runs, the Artfare studio / gallery tour, virtual tour schedule, which we're committed to doing every Thursday at 6 p.m. And the work is incredible. Thank you so much, Mary Deevas.
Wait, tell us, asking about the interest in spiders.
Oh, the interest in spiders, I think, is more about the idea of the web.
Yeah, she talks about the web being like a network.
Yeah, and I think the spider is kind of like this predator where the web is part of the infrastructure that helps protect the huntress, as she referred to. So like the web itself is that which stops some of the toxicity that she might be feeling or others may feel in the web. It's like a protective symbol.
Yeah, to catch the tears.
To catch the tears, the toxic tears of fake empathy.
Yeah, she did mention how in social networking, people will, like Lena was saying, you know, put sad emojis next to something. Like, people are posting everything that's happening to them. So if something bad is happening, you're going to post about it, and then people respond. But then what the thing is that people respond like, "I'm sorry for you," and things like this. But then what part of it was is that a lot of people don't follow up as a human being later on, like, and check in with you and say like, "Hey, I know you're going through like a really rough time with this or that, and I just thought I'd check in with you." Like, that happens less. So that's one reason that she's mentioning this empathy being something that feels false at times, or glossy.
Yeah, and I think that she also is pretty clear about those that seek pity, like a pity party, and how some individuals maybe have good reason to be sad and otherwise, yet some of the things that help them feel better are kind of making themselves pray, or they're more interested in feeling sad in order to get attention.
We have one more question, which is how
tell us how we can support you guys while you're closed for COVID-19. Well, this was a fantastic thing. We're also just started belonging to an organization called With Friends. And that is like a membership platform where you can give very small donations one time, or even like a monthly membership program where we're starting to make a board and hang names in the gallery, similar to some other galleries right now that are trying to make do. As we are an artist-run space, we were really expecting to sell some Liz Nielsen's in Dallas, and Liz's solo show also got postponed in Charlotte in April. And so thankfully, we're also talking about the cancel rent situation where New York, just artists run spaces, galleries, spaces that are for creatives, performance-based, music-based, that are working hard to get our legislation enacted. So there's petitions. You can call our congressmen, assembly persons, New York State Senate, Kirsten, or Cuomo, obviously, but then Schumer. There's this basically is a lot of political activism to do besides just financial support. So it's not just like a trickle down from mortgages. Like, if you get relieved from having a mortgage, that's great, but we spend our rent and it goes, it's not a liquid thing, and it's an investment for us. So in order to stay open, we either need something like cancel our rent or some financial support. But we're definitely going to have the show up until April 12th. Like, that's a done deal. We're ready and prepared for that, maybe even longer. We're talking about extending, because our programming,
some of the art fairs we were about to participate in are postponed.
We were all signed up to be one of the founding galleries of Future Fair, and that was going to be during Freeze, New York, in the beginning of May. And now that is going to be postponed to TBD. And basically, I think what also helps is like just liking our things on Instagram, or like reposting, or just kind of giving us shouts out, like that kind of social, right now in this virtual climate of social distancing. I feel sometimes we're as connected as sometimes even more social a little bit, even as we're disconnected in a physical space.
Yeah, even something like this. I mean, clearly we're rookies at it. Like, it took a little bit of legwork to get going, and I think a lot of us are rookies at this. Like, we're all new, learning how to communicate and work in these ways. So I think being able to still connect with artists, doing studio visits virtually, like connecting with people that you maybe wouldn't have even had a chance to go and visit in their studio at this time. I think those are things that can happen.
We're doing studio visits with folks. I just scheduled one for 8 o'clock on Saturday with someone that I've been dying to get in their studio, and they finally moved. And then it was like, "You ready?" And I was like, "It's COVID. Let's do."
Yeah, we did virtual studio visits with mosaic project artists, people that are on the artist residency there.
Mm-hmm. And that was a long day, but it was good.
Yeah.
Well, we're approaching 1900 or 7, and we're so honored again to have everyone here that has been listening and the support of Artfare. Big shout out to Aki and Kelly and Daniela and Enrique. I saw he was on for a second. And for everyone that is on Artfare, and my amazing, beautiful, wonderful friend from outside Detroit, Michigan, Mary Thiefels, who did the mural on the gates. Tree Town mural.
We didn't feature it today. What's the next art?
The next Artfare digital visit is Paradise Palace. Get ready. They have a beautiful show that's already installed, and they didn't get to have an actual physical opening because of all the cancellations coming about just before their actual opening. So next Thursday, 6 p.m. And then the next Thursday after that, April 9th, will be, is it April? It's the next Thursday after that is Johanna Herr. And then we're going to keep programming. We're going to keep doing Thursday nights at 6 o'clock. I keep saying things like, I remember when I used to go home and be like, Family Ties is on at 7. I can't miss it. Or like, before there was syndication and all our binge watching, I used to look forward to the television in the 70s and the 80s and having shows that, we had to wait for. And it's kind of this reinvigoration of that nostalgia, and hope you'll join us. Maybe have a little glass of wine. We were keeping it professional tonight. But we really do hope you'll join us every Thursday at 6 p.m. when we get all these little bugs worked out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. It's good to see your faces.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop the recording now and sign out.